I'm a feminist, but when I imagine myself smashing the patriarchy, I'm dressed in a skin-tight jumpsuit like Mrs. Peel in The Avengers. And I have her figure, 1960s Diana Rigg.
Nice.
Boom.
Nice.
Smashing the patriarchy in the face.
I don't know that that's unfeminist.
It's not unfeminist, but it's not like... I feel like I shouldn't really be designing a costume.
It's not practicality first. Sure. Okay, I'll allow it. I'm a feminist, but I cannot say that phrase without thinking about how much I like feminist butts. I'm not even sorry.
No, should you be?
Thank you.
I'm a feminist, but the other day I stumbled across a deleted selfie folder on my phone and screamed. Sometimes it just takes a really, like it's, you're not ready. It's like you've opened the phone and it takes a picture of your chin.
Yeah.
And you find all these bad evil twin pictures in your deleted... Like the one you put on Facebook is perfect, and then you accidentally stumble across deleted pictures, or you're looking for a picture you deleted. There's all these evil twin pictures.
I absolutely hate photos where I look like myself. I totally understand.
No interest in them at all.
No, thank you.
No,
thanks.
I totally don't know what I look like.
I don't want to know.
I look like my best ever pictures in my head.
Yep.
And I manage how I look in the mirror. Mirror management, I call it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you see, but it's wrong.
Yeah. No, that's
not accurate. What you're seeing now, not accurate.
Everyone's busy. Look, we're busy having the dilemma, which is if we endorse the patriarchal norm that we have to have our hair and makeup done to go outside and feel good, that is obviously unfeminist, but at the same time, sometimes you want to look cute. So...
No, but the thing is...
It's a tricky one.
Sometimes, if you're a comedian, you have to give awards at things, you know...
Yeah, but you could do that with your, like, real face. It's just like, who wants to? Do you know what I mean? Who wants to?
I don't want to. I want to dress up.
Either.
I like it. But do you know what? I think there's also a lot of aggression against gender expression. Yeah. It's like, oh, that's not proper feminist. But why? It's just gender expression.
I think that we can definitely sell that. So let's go with it.
You do one.
Great. I'm a feminist, but I do still think that the knife is the daddy, the fork is the mommy, and the spoon is the baby they had in wedlock.
You're a feminist in a lesbian relationship. Surely you're chopsticks.
2 forks. No!
I saw it on Facebook.
Are the boys. Ew.
No, I saw it on Facebook. There was a cute little cartoon.
No, I saw it on Facebook. This is what lesbians do. Oh, okay, Deborah.
No. I saw it's a little cartoon of 2 chopsticks and a knife and a fork saying, which one of you is the fork? And the chopsticks are like, neither of us, that's the point.
Oh, nice, woke chopsticks. Fair enough. Okay. I'll take it.
I'm a feminist. But the other day, a cold caller wanting to change our internet plan asked me some questions, and to get off the phone, I said, I'm afraid my husband pays all the bills, and then I gave him Tom's mobile number. He does, though, not because we have a patriarchal relationship, because I find it boring.
It's so boring.
So boring.
So
if someone
boring.
likes doing that stuff.
Yeah. I'm a feminist. But I am in a relationship with a woman, and to be fair, she is like nag all day long.
Wow.
Do you know why I did that? Because I just feel like 90s, 70s to 1990s male comics got to do all of the wives and mother-in-law jokes, and I wanted to go. I just wanted to try it. It didn't feel comfortable.
I would love it if you came out and did a whole "Take My Wife, Please" set. Yeah. Take my mother-in-law,
just
please.
Take her. Oh my God. Yeah. To be fair, if anything, I'm the nag. It's a nightmare. I mean, obviously women are allowed to have opinions, but I have a lot of them. So I can see why my girlfriend might be tired.
You and I are in a spiral of I'm a feminist, but you'll never come out.
Sorry.
Awareness.
We should probably move on.
Live from King's Place in London, the Spontaneity Shop presents The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Catherine Bohart, and very very special guests, Corry Shaw, Windust, and Natasha Devon, talking about awareness. This is The Guilty Feminist, the podcast in which we explore our noble goals as 21st century feminists and the hypocrisies and insecurities which undermine them. Just give us a cheer if you feel like an aware feminist. Give us a cheer if you feel like you could be aware, that you think there are things I should be aware of and I'm not aware of them yet. Okay, tonight you are going to leave here so much more aware than you came. I genuinely do mean that.
Yeah, you'll be positively alert by the time you're out. Absolutely. You're going to be... Do you know what it is? I think part of feminism, like there's that bit you have to get through where you have to become incredibly aware of that which you are not aware of, which is just tiresome, isn't it?
Finding out
Come
things.
on, I want to be good. Isn't that enough? And you're like, probably not. It's very annoying.
Yeah, but there's all sorts of things you find out about a pocket of something you didn't even know about.
Yeah.
It's the unconscious incompetence.
It's also my complete discontent at being put out in any way. So, like, I increasingly have to become aware of things that mean I have to do something, and then I'm like, oh, for goodness sake. Wasn't it better when I just didn't know? I mean, it wasn't, obviously, but at the same time, the to-do list is getting pretty out of control.
It's definitely better experientially if you don't know about things that you have to be aware of and do things. But then when you know about them, you can't unknow them again.
No.
And then, of course, you think, no, of course, it's better to know that plastic straws are bad for the ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, they are lovely in a vodka soda.
Yeah. And did you read that thing about how figs have bees in them?
What? No, don't tell me. Don't tell me. I don't want to be aware of this. Figs have bees.
I mean, it's not the same as you should probably not use straws, but I read, I'll be honest, the headline of an article that suggested all figs have bees in them, and now the world is a worse place. So...
This is the thing. And there's so many things to keep track of, and sometimes they're conflicting. Does anyone else feel this? I feel like the other day I was talking to someone about veganism, and they were saying, well, you know, quinoa is the worst thing for the planet, and people who...
Only when you say it like that, Deborah. Quinoa. That does sound like the worst thing for the planet.
Yes, quinoa, they were saying the way that the people who grow it are treated and how bad it is for the environment, and they were telling me that to milk an almond is not...
Good practice.
It's not an effective use of energy, and they were like, the thing is, you think just be vegan and you've done so much for the planet, and they were explaining to me that it's more complicated than that. They weren't saying don't be vegan. They were saying you have to be an ethical vegan that also cares about the planet, and then there's like 4 things you can eat, and 3 of them are string. And I don't like string.
Do you know what I mean? But also it just doesn't go with everything. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes you have a dinner party. But I'm a vegan-ish, and as in I'm probably vegan 90% of the time.
I have my 80%. Do 80% of the right things 80% of the time. Okay, that takes it down to a lower percentage than it sounds.
Sure.
It's still better for the world.
Well, that's the thing. That's what frustrates me is, like, when I was a vegetarian... Well, when I was a meat eater, people was like, you need to be a vegetarian. I read some stuff. They were right. Ugh. Then I was like, okay, I'll be a vegetarian. Then vegans were like, well, if you're going to do it, why wouldn't you do it properly? And I was like, I mean, I do want to be smug about this, so fine. Now I'm a vegan most of the time, and people are still like...
They're saying you should be a vegan all of the time.
And also a better vegan. And it's like, oh, dudes, come on. Like, if everyone was a vegan most of the time, it would definitely be better than...
Oh, it would be so much better for the planet. And also better for animals.
Yeah.
I saw the funniest thing, though, on Twitter.
Go on.
Somebody had written a story about how they had seen a little child crying because she couldn't afford an ice cream, and the ice cream fan was there playing green sleeves. And all the other kids had an ice cream. She said, I just gave the kid some money to buy some ice cream, and now she's happy and she's got ice cream all over her face. And I just feel good about myself. And she was saying, like, we should all do something kind today or something like that. And somebody wrote, if that ice cream wasn't vegan, you may have made a human child happy, but you've made a cow child very sad. And I'm paraphrasing and slightly mocking, but
the lady who bought the ice cream was vegan. And was like, could we mabes chill for 5 minutes?
Well, she said, I'm a vegan, my boyfriend's a vegan, my mother's a vegan, I just saw a child crying. And he started saying, you're not a vegan. He said, if you gave a child money, she said, I didn't buy the ice cream. He said, you gave a child money knowing it would buy dairy. You are not a vegan, because a vegan has an ethical stance. You have a plant-based diet, and that is not a vegan. And she said,
You're just a lady trying to make the world better, so I hope you're happy with yourself.
He said, you're plant-based. And she said, you're plant-based. Because you're not being compassionate to me right now, and vegans are meant to be compassionate. And he started going, you're plant-based. Well, you're plant-based. You're plant-based. And I realized in vegan world, plant-based is a slur. Because it's like, you're plant-based. You're not even proper vegan. You just eat plants. And that's not the same. You don't care about cows. I was like, wow, this is fascinating. And I somehow at some point quote tweeted a thread and went, this is amazing. And then somebody said, I'm so happy to see that you're supporting her. And I was like, oh, I didn't really mean to support anyone. I was just like fascinated by it. But
then
I mean,
people were
obviously,
like,
I
have you
support
heard
her.
about that plant-based lady who does the Guilty Feminist? Oh my God.
I'm so plant-based.
So basic.
I'm not even plant-based. I'm not even plant-based. I try and be pescatarian, light on dairy. That is all I have for you. I don't know how to give up fish. I don't know how. I can't. I try and quit fish, but it won't quit me. I occasionally...
Same, but it's a lesbian thing, so don't worry about it.
And at the...
Oh, come on.
At the wedding I went to on the weekend, there was vegetarian food eventually, but at the top, the caterers were bringing out all the meat stuff, and the vegetarians, I think some of them was like, oh, I wonder if there's anything going to come out for us.
Yeah.
And they'll bring out cauliflower, but the vegetarians were like, we want this to hoard this for ourselves. The meat eaters are all having the cauliflower.
Yeah.
Get off our cauliflower.
Get off my cauliflower, man.
Get off my cauliflower.
To be fair, I do that at social gatherings when I'm concerned there won't be enough food. Never mind vegetarian food. I am absolutely,
You hoard a bit of the vegans.
Yeah.
So I broke. And
you broke your 80% of the time. Sometimes fish, I rest my case. Yeah, no, listen, it has to be done. That's too limiting. If it's too limiting, it's fair. That's fair.
I broke. I had, for the first time in a very, very, very long time, I had a burger. Now, normally now, if I try and eat meat, I can't do it. I'm like, I really don't enjoy this. It was the greatest thing I've ever eaten.
That's the worst thing is I'm still a veg. I went veggie 7 years ago, and I mean I always loved the taste of meat. There's no way to say that without feeling like bah. Just saying, but I still think that looks
I really
great.
do not enjoy meat anymore, but occasionally I think, and the thing is, probably too much information. But I came on today, and I think I was low in iron.
Yeah, that's such a good excuse.
I was low in iron, and I just don't know what came over me. I had the burger, and I just was like, this is delicious. And I'm sorry to all vegans and vegetarians and cows.
But like, we know, like, it tastes good. And look, I would not eat it,
It normally doesn't to me anymore. It normally doesn't, but I just had a craving.
I think it would to me. But I'm like, I wouldn't eat it. But at the same time, when they make that stuff in labs, I'm going to be first in the queue. Yes, please.
I hear that.
I can see some judgmental faces. You're like,
we should do a whole episode on veganism. If you're a vegan, you can come and be on it.
Okay. That was like Deborah throwing down the gauntlet. If you're going to be a proper vegan, then maybe you can be on it.
Are you plant-based? Sounds like you're plant-based.
Sounds like I'm plant-based. I just didn't know. Fine.
Hello, Guilty Feminists. Briefly interrupting your podcast listening to let you know that on Saturday, the 10th of August at 7:15 p.m, you can see the Guilty Feminist live at the South Bank. Go to underbellyfestival.com for tickets. Abigail Shimon and I are co-hosting the podcast recording there with some very special and exciting guests. Don't miss it. On the 14th of August, which is a Wednesday, I am live in conversation with May Martin, and we're talking about sexuality, May's new book, May's new Netflix series. We're both going to be signing our books afterwards, so you can come up and meet us and say hi. I really can't think of any downsides to coming. Go to nationaltheatre.org.uk for a ticket, because it's at the National Theatre, again in London, on the South Bank.
Now, if you are up at the Edinburgh Fringe, I will be back up on the Saturday, 24th of August. The Guilty Feminist and Amnesty International are getting together to revive the legendary comedy brand of The Secret Policeman in a series of live shows across the UK called The Secret Policeman's Tour. We will be at the Edinburgh Playhouse on the 24th. The cast includes me hosting, Rachel Paris, Nish Kumar, Phoebe Robinson from Two Dope Queens, Sindhu V, Desiree Birch, Holly McNish, Rosie Jones, Steve Alley, and from Derry Girls, Siobhan McSweeney, Saoirse Monica Jackson and Nicola Coughlan together in an exciting sketch. And we have music from Jess Robinson and Grace Petrie. It's going to be an exceptional event. Go to atgtickets.com for tickets or find the link on the Guilty Feminist website. Don't miss it. It's going to be night of nights at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. And we're also going to be collectively doing something wonderful together for human rights on the evening. Please come along. Now we are announcing our exciting new Guilty Feminist podcast crossover season. That's right, we're mashing up our podcast with some of your favourites. So instead of No Such Thing as a Fish and The Guilty Feminist, it's going to be No Such Thing as a Guilty Feminist. We're also going to be joining up with Jessica Foster-Q for Hoovering in The Hungry Feminist, All Killer No Feminism, Relahistapagfa, which is Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast mixed with The Guilty Feminist, and The Feminist Bugle. This amazing festival is going to be from Friday the 30th of August to Sunday the 1st of September, all at King's Place. Get tickets now because some of these shows are already sold out. It's kingsplace.co.uk for tickets. We recently featured Guilty Feminist favourite Aisling Bea on the podcast, talking about her new sitcom This Way Up in the Loneliness episode. Now, Aisling has written the sitcom and she also stars in it alongside the amazing Sharon Horgan. Aisling plays an English as a foreign language teacher putting her life back together after a, quote, teeny little nervous breakdown. You can watch This Way Up on Channel 4 this Thursday at 10 p.m. Remember to tune in because it really does matter. And if you don't get a chance to watch it, then watch it on All 4, where you can also see Game Face by the brilliant Roisin Connerty. And finally, my book is now out in paperback. It includes 2 new interviews with Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Hannah Gadsby, and you can get that at all good bookshops or online, as well as the ebook and the audiobook. Now back to the podcast.
Would you like to hear some stand-up comedy? Please welcome to the stage the wonderful Catherine Bohart.
Hello. My New Year's resolution is to hate men less. Hear me out. My girlfriend and I had fallen into this trap where we kept saying this sentence weekly, or sometimes daily, and it was really frustrating because we don't like to be stereotypes. Like, that's why I'm wearing this skirt and she avoids golf. Like, we don't want to be lazy. Like, I want at least people to be like, maybe. And we try not to, but we were getting into a stereotype where we kept saying this on a regular basis, which was, God, I hate men. Which is not okay. And I mean, to be fair to us, it was only because we'd been outside and met some, but read the news based purely on fact, but we were saying it too much. We were saying it too much and we didn't want to say it that much because here's the thing. I know men. I like some of them. We've been related to a lot of them. I loved even some of them. Have loved. I've been in love with many of them. I like men and I know that in my heart, but then I speak to them and I just have to be reminded. And so we did this thing where we were like, you know Arya Stark from Game of Thrones, the way she has her list of enemies? Yes? Okay. We were like, we need a list of men that we trust. Right? So we started this list. Now, here's the thing. If you make a list of men that you trust and tell any man that you have that list, what will their first question be? Exactly. Reliably self-centered, yes. It's, am I on the list? Am I on the list? And here's the thing, based on everything we know from the media over the last 2 years, we know that if they ask that question, maybe they know something that you don't, and so you have to immediately take them off the list, which means we started with 200, and now there's 11. And I said this to my friend, my male friend, that we have this list, and he said, Catherine, that's terrible. That's absolutely awful. Like, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. That's awful. You're basically profiling men. You can't do that. That's like having a list of black people. And I was like, No, it's not. It's actually more like a black person having a list of white people they trust, and I'm completely fine with that. Completely fine. I'm totally okay with it. The last thing I'm doing for this new year, I'm trying to go to the gym because you're supposed to, because I'm at that stage where people have stopped drinking and started having hobbies again. It's a weird life cycle, isn't it? In school, you have hobbies so you can get into university. Then you get to university and people are like, ew, hobbies, we drink. And you're like, great. And then you get to your 30s and people are like, we're not drinking anymore. We all have hobbies again. And you're like, fuck, I don't have any hobbies. I don't know what to do. So I'm not drinking and I'm starting to go to the gym. And I hate the gym because my self-esteem is already fine. And so I was like, I don't know what to do there. And it's like going to AA when you're a mild drinker. You're like, I don't know if I have demons to exercise, but that's fine. But I'm there, and I go to a spin class. Have we been to a spin class? Yes, where you probably have a bike at home, but nonetheless you're paying to cycle nowhere with other people. Inexplicable. And I go to this class, except it's not a spin class, apparently, because that's very 2017. It's a one rebel class, which means that they don't spin and they don't cycle. This particular group of people ride. They ride, which as an Irish woman, I was like, I mean, they're all very fit and sexy, let's ride. But that's not what they meant. And so I go to this class, and there's an Insta board outside. I don't know if you know what an Insta board is. If you don't, that's all right. They will put supportive phrases, encouraging phrases outside this gym class that you then take pictures of for Instagram. You have to take pictures, I think, because that's the only way white women can get the spirit of the thing. It's kind of like a Native American. And you take the picture of the Insta board, it'll say things like, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels, or why don't you just kill yourself? And yay, the gym. And you go. And I go into this class in Bayswater, first time that I was not supposed to be there. And I go in, and we start to ride, and this woman shouts at me the whole time, and she keeps referring to us as rebels. Rebels, rebels, rebels. Now, she is playing very inappropriate rap music to 20 white ladies, so maybe we're rebelling against PC culture? I don't know. And she's shouting, and at the end she goes, now, I just want you all to take a moment. Just take a moment during this last song to really have a think about why you're here. And really, really think about who your heroes are. Now, there were not many people in this class, right? So I was like, oh my God, what if she asks me? So I'm panicking for 2 minutes. I'm like, I probably should pick a woman. I guess I should pick an Irish person. I mean, I am in England. What am I going to say? I don't even know what to say to her. Could I think before I started riding? God, why can't I think of anything? I couldn't think at all. And I knew she was going to ask because she hated me and I her. And I thought, this is terrible. I've got to. And the lights were really dim, so you can't see everyone's self-loathing. So I was panicking in the dark. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say to her. And then she said, it's you. For coming to this spin class. So she doesn't know what rebels mean, and she doesn't know what heroes mean, and I hate it there. But it's all right, because I found a new gym exercise that I think I'm slightly more into, which is Pilates. Pilates, yes. Big fans. The group near me don't look like you because they are octogenarians. The vibe was old. Like, it was super old, which meant that the exercise was mild, and you could sleep and no one noticed, so I was into it. But they did assume you were dead, but it was fine. And they were very old, and so old were the group of people who do Pilates near me, and the reason I enjoyed them so much is that they just completely owned it. They were like, we're not athletes, that's fine. At the end, the woman who ran the class said this. She said, now, just before we go, a couple of announcements. Like it was mass. Like, she was just like, so a couple of announcements. Her first announcement was this. In Wilson Green Sports Centre, she said, just wanted to tell everyone that I've accidentally deleted Microsoft Word from my computer. I don't know how to get it back on. Just thought I'd see if anyone knew how. 3 men who definitely didn't know how were going to her house that evening. I don't know why. And another woman then said, well, if we're doing announcements... If we're doing announcements, I was wondering if anyone has a cat with kidney failure. Because my cat has just died and I can't give the medicine away. And that's the kind of class and community vibe I can get behind. Folks, you've been absolutely lovely. I'm going to give you over to the wonderful Deborah Frances-White.
Our guests today are a disability activist, the editor-in-chief of Fruitcake magazine, and a writer, speaker, and mental health awareness campaigner. Please welcome Corry Shaw, Jamie Windust, and Natasha Devon. Corry, tell us a little bit about you.
My name's Corry Shaw. I'm a comedy producer, but for about the last 3 weeks, I've been better known as a disabled shouting person.
Excellent. Very good. And your campaign is called Look Up?
It is, yeah. I've started a campaign to try and encourage people to look up on public transport, so I'm currently chatting nicely with TfL and Sadiq Khan to try and have announcements put onto the tube to say, look up, does someone need your seat at every station?
I mean, it's just what Londoners want. If you are listening regionally and you're not a regular visitor to London, or you're listening internationally, Londoners love nothing more than looking up and making eye contact on public transport, engaging in the chat. Would you like my seat? We love it. We love a chat.
I should point out, I do live in London, so I also don't want to talk to anyone. So ideally, they just stand up and give me the seat without engaging at all.
Lovely. So please, maybe the announcement could say something like, please look up. If somebody needs your seat, give them a slight head nod to the left. A head bob to the left, do you want my seat? Head bob to the right, yes, I do. Head bob to the left, no, you're fine, stay where you are. I don't want your seat. Great, thank you very much, I'll go back to my phone. Some system like that.
Yeah, I think so. If we can get that down to the 2-second announcement, we'll...
Great, okay,
yeah,
I will work on that. Natasha Devon, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a mental health campaigner. I go into schools, colleges and universities all over the UK, working with predominantly 14 to 18-year-olds. And Piers Morgan once called me everything that's wrong with modern Britain.
Well, we love you. I mean, if you're everything Piers Morgan hates, you have come to the right podcast. That was one of our workshop names for this show. Guilty Feminist, or Everything That Piers Morgan Hates. Jamie.
Hello there. So I'm Jamie, I'm non-binary. I am the editor-in-chief, which is a gorgeously arrogant title I like to adorn, of Fruitcake magazine, which is an LGBT+ queer publication for and by queer people, which is something that I love to create. Because, again, speaking of arrogance, I arrogantly put myself on the first cover.
Did you put yourself on the front cover of the first episode? Or the first edition, sorry.
Correct, and I also made merchandise of my face. Because I was like...
Go, Jamie.
I was like, if people are going to take the piss out of me on the streets, I might as well make money out of it.
Yes.
So they can buy my shit, and then who's laughing now? So, I go by they, them pronouns, which is something that I'm sure we'll get into at some point during
Yes, absolutely.
this.
So you prefer the pronoun they?
Correct, yes.
Which is something we've all got to get used to. I have a non-binary friend, Rubes Walsh, who's been on the show before, but they are okay with she. And so I call Rubes she, and she says, I'd rather people say she because that's more accurate than... She's more accurate than he, they's the most accurate. But she said just so that, while people are learning it. But I think I might transition into calling Rubes they so I can get used to it.
Yeah.
With somebody who doesn't mind a she.
Absolutely.
But I might start, because it is awkward at first. You go, I don't know how to do this. But like anything, it's awkward for a bit, and then it stops being awkward and we all get used to it.
Absolutely. It's something that is language, and language changes, and it's something that has been used for, decades, where people just have to kind of manipulate their language and their lifestyle to kind of go along with it. And I had a funny situation. I'm from a small town in Dorset, and oh hi. And I had a piece of press in the local news, and I'm obviously close to my parents, but I kind of have that separation where I find it difficult to speak to them about something. So pronouns is one of those things. And they read the piece and they were like, Jamie, I don't know if you know, but like they didn't use he in any of it. And I was like, yeah, I know, Dad. And he was like, it was hilarious. They were talking about you as if you were Madonna. They were like, they. And then I was like, oh, this is a great time to broach the subject. And I think comedy is a great way to kind of broach, hard-hitting things. So I'm glad to be able to talk about it here in a kind of funny way, because it doesn't need to be heavy.
That's the other thing, is like, you have to think about it for 2 seconds. But is it that hard? I mean, like, we don't call women loads of things we used to call them. We don't call loads of groups names we used to call them. Is it that hard if someone goes, hey, I just prefer they, them? Also, provided your intent is good, most non-binary people, most people, if you make mistakes, are able to go, I recognise that you were not endeavouring to hurt me.
Absolutely.
Next, let's move on.
Yeah, just don't call me a clown. Because I get it quite a lot, and people mistake it for it, balloon, because I have white makeup and wear a lot of blush because I fucking can.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I've had a lot of its because they think it's another version of they. And then they're like, oh, it's funny because you look like the clown. And I'm like, that's great, isn't it?
If you're listening at home, Jamie has just lifted their middle finger.
Correct. Thank you.
See, this is what frustrates me, is that so many characters like Piers Morgan characterise the sort of reaction of non-binary people as inflammatory or as overly sensitive to mistakes, such that we are all everyone else should be fearful of getting it wrong. There's a difference between saying she or he accidentally and saying it or you're a clown. Can we accept that that's quite a distinct?
Yes.
It wasn't oops. There's no, you're a dick. What's wrong with you?
There's misgendering, and there's not accepting that person is of your species.
Yeah.
And those are different things, because misgendering is an accidental. We're used to saying he or she. So it slips out and we go, oh, sorry. But we've just got to talk about it. That's the only way to do it. Now, Natasha, you wrote a book called The Beginner's Guide to Being Mental.
I did.
Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I want to talk about the language of this in the same way I want to talk with Jamie about pronouns and awareness there.
The first thing I should say is that I have a mental illness myself. I have something called panic disorder, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's very easy for me to have a panic attack. The defining characteristic of it is I have a little lump that lives in my throat that I call Nigel. It's named after Farage. For a multitude of reasons, but the most pertinent is probably just when you think it's gone for good. You again.
Keeps coming back.
Keeps coming
true, though, because he
back.
does keep leaving. Nice.
Yeah, and constantly demands alcohol, but only makes it worse. Thrives on irrational scaremongering. The parallels are endless. But
did your lump cause Brexit?
Not to my knowledge, no. I wanted to look at language around mental health because I did English at university. English was my favourite subject at school. And everyone from my primary school teacher right up to my university lecturer, they all used to say to me, you're so lucky to be studying English because English has more words than any other dialect. And whilst that's technically true, when you sit down and look at how those words are apportioned, we have the least amount of words spoken in the developed world for feelings and emotions.
Wow.
Yeah, because we're British. And so traditionally we haven't really had feelings and emotions. So there are other languages that just do it so much better. Like German, they've got 15 different words for 15 types of anger. And in Greek, they've got 4 different words for 4 different types of love, which makes much more sense. And then I found this word in Korean, the literal translation of which was, yes, I did lie to you, but given the context in which I told the lie, you should have known I was lying.
I definitely think we should adopt that one.
Right. And
Can we get one of those?
I just went, English is a really inadequate tool. And this is why people are having conversations at cross purposes. People misuse clinical terms. They go, I just had a total panic attack, or I feel really depressed today. And my sense is that they're not trying to diminish mental illness. I think the word for how they're feeling doesn't exist, and they're grasping for the nearest thing. So the upshot of all of that is we're having these conversations about mental health at cross purposes, because no one knows how each other are using the words that they're
Or
using.
how anyone else is feeling.
Exactly.
So we had an episode with Carly Findlay, who is a disability activist and campaigner, and she talked to us about the language that we were using. And she told us not to use words like the traffic is crazy, or that's insane, because you've heard a rule you don't like in a theatre or something like that. And I said, well, what words can I use? And she said, bananas. And I said, I'm not a member of the Partridge Family. And so she brought out a thesaurus, and basically her words were amazing. They were like words like frenetic. And I was thinking, God, I'm going to be using these really sophisticated words the whole time. And then someone taught me wild. That was wild. And I thought, oh, that's good. And I've started using it more. But here's the thing, Natasha, and I want to run this by you, because the thing is, I feel I'm crazy enough to own the word crazy. I don't feel I'm crazy enough to own the word mental.
Okay. Well,
That's where I feel I am. And I genuinely do feel that. I feel like I am a bit crazy. I don't have a mental illness. So I think Catherine, who has OCD, is allowed to use the word mental, and I'm not. But I think crazy, sometimes that's how I feel. And do we not all have to decide what we're going to own? I also think crazy has positive connotations. Like sometimes we go, that party was crazy, and it's positive, or crazy little thing called love, or crazy is often attached to the word love now. And I don't know, what are we going to do? Get rid of songs like Crazy for...
You sound a little bit like Piers Morgan now. What next? Are we going to get rid of all the songs?
Mic drop.
No, I don't know any positive uses of the word mental in the same way that I do with crazy. I have positive associations with it, but also I feel like all of us have mental health issues now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I disagree with what Carly said, in that I would rather the word crazy was used to describe crazy weather or a crazy party, because crazy it suggests out of control. It suggests something that you can't manage. And, when it comes to my mental illness, I always say to people, it's not really radically different from having diabetes. I have to be aware of my triggers. I have to take steps to manage it. I have to take medication. I have to incorporate lifestyle changes, but it doesn't impact my behavior. It doesn't define who I am. Crazy is, when something's kind of ping-ponging,
It's frenetic.
There's definite visuals there, isn't there? And so I think it probably is appropriate to apply it to people who don't have mental illnesses. And that's the one time I wouldn't use it. Do you see what I mean?
Right, yes. But, Carly has her school of thinking and you have yours, and neither of those are right or wrong.
Yeah.
I think we need to just be having the conversation and deciding where we're going to go with this. How do you feel about the word disabled, Corry?
I've actually been learning quite a lot. For a long time, I refused to identify as disabled. I was embarrassed and ashamed of my body not being normal. And it took me a really long time to accept the fact that that's what I was. When I started this campaign, I'm quite a private person. I'm not normally on this side of the spotlight. And I took to Twitter to launch the campaign and learned really, really quickly that my language is outdated, because the last sort of sensitivity training or inclusivity training I had was back in the 90s. So in my head, I was using the correct language, using able-bodied or people with disabilities. And luckily, a lot of charities came on board with the campaign very quickly and very kindly and nicely, without any suggestion that I was doing anything bad or wrong, said, here's the language that we're using now. This is the document. This is the policy that has been written by disabled people for the government, basically, to teach them the words that they are. So I'm disabled. If you're lucky enough to be not disabled yet, then you are non-disabled. But I can't remember which comedian it was, but someone said there are disabled people and there are those that aren't disabled yet.
But also, Rosie Jones uses able-bodied, but some people don't like able-bodied because they say the disability is with the structure of the world, in a bit of a way that if I'm comparing myself to a bird, I can't fly, but the world doesn't expect me to fly, so therefore I'm not disabled. But if you can't walk upstairs, you're disabled, but that's not because...
That's not your disability, so your disability you're
Is
disabled,
coming up against power structures.
but your impairment is that you can't use stairs. So there's a medical model of disability, which is the outdated model, which is the disability is your problem, it's your thing, it's a reason why you can't do things. And then the newer model that's being used now is the social model of disability, where it's society that is causing you problems because of impairments that you have. So it's not down to you to fix things. It's not your problem. It's society needs to adapt to help you live a normal life with impairments. It's becoming more and more obvious to people, and more people are becoming aware that not every impairment is visible. So, for example, my campaign for travel, there's people that don't have physical impairments, but that have mental health issues or a whole load of other invisible impairments which make it hard for them to travel. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's because they've got a wonky leg or a bad back or...
Menstruation, Catherine.
Menstruation.
Just thinking, could we get red badges?
I'm on my period, please let me sit down.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it's more than a badge. I want to be able to get on a tube and shout loudly. Like, I want it to be okay for me to go, I'm bleeding. Get up.
I'm hemorrhaging. I will hemorrhage.
I don't want to talk about it. Yeah.
I will free bleed on you unless you get out of my way. It's the worst. It's standing there with period pain. It's so bad. But nothing compared to
I can tell you, though, that if you do that on a tube, if you stand on a tube and have a breakdown with a bunch of people that have already refused to give you a seat, and you cry and you scream, I'm in pain, I need to sit down, this is what happens, and you might need to do an audio description.
People just look away.
They look away. They don't react. If you're at the point where you're having that breakdown, where you've already asked, please, can I sit? And a lot of people can't ask. And one of my joyful mental health illnesses is anxiety, and I do have panic attacks. And there are times where I can ask because I feel brave enough that day, but every single time that I'm refused or insulted or abused or told
Do people
no,
insult you and abuse you?
yeah, not often. So I'm not saying every time I travel I'm having trouble getting a seat, because I think for the most part people are kind, and I think for the most part people just aren't looking up to see me. But it has happened. You know, some of it's quite inventive. Are we allowed to swear on this show?
I really hope so.
We are. I'm afraid we broadcast on Her Majesty's internet, and there is no swearing there. No, yes, yeah, very much so.
So the worst one that I've had as a disabled lady was a group of lads shouting that I was a waste of a good cunt.
Oh my.
So
That was the worst thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
How do they even know it's good yet?
Do you know, look at the rest of me.
You're right. The signs are all there.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm joking.
Catherine
remember
Bohart
where
is
you
a
are.
stand-up comedian, and we are trained to go for the joke.
I'm sorry. I am.
You know, it releases tension, as Hannah Gadsby says in Annette.
true.
How do you feel about this kind of language, Catherine? Because you're somebody who's been diagnosed with OCD, you've been hospitalised, it's a condition you have to live with and manage. Am I allowed to use the word crazy?
So, first of all, I don't speak as the spokesperson for mentally ill.
Need you
but
to.
Now that I have been given the position, I welcome the power, and I would be thrilled to answer the question. Do you know what I mean? The thing is, first of all, I think I have to recognise my own privilege within a group of people who might have mental illness or my mental illness, which is to say that I am a white, middle-class lady who has a diagnosis, a therapist, and a prescription. So that makes me, first of all, in a much better position, and a much happier position, and a much more fortunate position than a multitude of people. Second is to say that it's easier for me to own the word, because I'm usually with a microphone in a position of power making jokes, and I'm well. So that is perhaps easier for me than I
Also,
like to
you're
think
really
it is.
hot.
Right? Bullshit. But, you know, like, it's just like, I do think so. I'm fortunate in that sense. But I would also say that I do think that is a word that has diminished me, and also I associate with so much darkness, that it is fun to grab it and throw it up in the air and hit it with a bat occasionally. But yeah, I do recognize that it has consequences when I do that, and perhaps I need to think about that a little bit more. But I also think, we have always been terrible. You're right. Like the English language is limited. I mean, the amount of I used to study governmental limitations of sexual expression in the 1920s in Ireland, and because I had an awesome lecturer who let me do that. But like the words we used to use around this were always like nerves, and especially for women, they always suffered with their nerves. And I do think to an extent, yes, we are limited by the words we have, but I also think it does come back again, and I don't want to sound like Piers Morgan, heaven forbid, but I do think intent matters. That's not to say that intent can diminish or excuse any use of words. That's not what I mean to say, but rather that I think, if you trip someone over, it does matter whether or not it was on purpose or by accident, and we can learn from that. But I do think, to a large degree, when people mean well in this context, am I giving a decisive answer? I'm not sure. What I'm saying is, I have a mental illness. I have used the word mental for a long time. I probably do cast aspersions on people who don't or don't understand it. That's another thing. I feel like if you're having a conversation around these words, know what the illness you're talking about means. Make sure that when you're talking about OCD, I don't realize halfway through the conversation with you actually meant BDD or ADHD. I know there's a lot of acronyms, but like, Google.
Learn about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's part of the conversation. But also, maybe I'm still figuring that out. Is that okay?
I think the difficulty comes when you see people with mental health issues as one cohesive group, not only because scientists are now saying that people are different, but also because, the term mental health covers such a broad remit. Like, you would never have a physical health week. And if you did, people would assume that it was about physical fitness. They wouldn't assume that you had to shoehorn every single illness that can possibly befall a person into that week. And that's part of the problem as well, I think, that, people have vastly different experiences. It's a lot different having panic disorder to having OCD, to having bipolar and all the various other things.
And that's kind of a big problem with mental health issues as well, that say somebody has mental health problems. There was an amazing article in The Guardian today about this. Did anybody else read it? That
it's a guilty feminist audience. Of course they read it. They're just too modest to even say it, because maybe somebody else's turn to say it.
I just
so when we were all reading The Guardian today,
I just need to find it so that I'm quoting it right. So while I'm doing that, Jamie, how do you feel about the word queer? I was told this was a great umbrella word. It's not leaving anybody out. It's been reclaimed. And someone wrote to me and said that word can feel hurtful because it was a slur in the playground. And then some lesbians I was talking to on the show were saying, well, lesbian was the worst word in our playground, but we can't not use it. How do you feel about the word queer?
I think for all LGBT people, living their lives authentically is an act of political resistance. So I think by reclaiming words, it gives us our power back. Now, I'm just going to trigger warning for transphobic words, but I get called tranny on the daily, literally every single day. And I've only recently been I'm going to reclaim that and use it for myself, about myself, in instances where it's shouted at me every single hour. So I'm I need to be able, and the community need to be able to take their own language back and use it as a powerful force. So queer, in the past, 5-10 years, has really kind of come back to us. And like you say, it's an embodiment of everything. It's one of those words that is very vague, but in the best way. It's one of those words that's I'm queer, and you don't need to know what I am. I need to know, and the person I'm sleeping with needs to know, and the people I care about need to know, and that's it. And that's what I love about it, because it has that kind of anonymity about it, but you can still have that really strong sense of community with that.
What do you wish people were more aware of about non-binary people?
Although I've spoken about Fruitcake as a place where I want it to be light-hearted, for me, what's affecting my mental health, and a lot of non-binary people's mental health, is the kind of behind the scenes of public street harassment that goes on that is not seen as legitimate violence. I've been to the police countless times to report things being thrown at me. Literally yesterday I had the police called and I was enjoying a delicious oat milk coffee, going back to the vegan chat, because a group of youths were banging on the window calling me a fucking tranny. And I had to apologise. The people in the shop were not aware of what was happening. I think they thought that Annie Lennox had made a comeback. And sat in the window trying to get some PR. Like, hi. And it's instances like that where I was with a friend and we were just like, what the fuck is happening? And it's the street harassment. People will come up to me on the street and be like, you look fucking amazing. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, lovely, thank you. But like, don't just come for me when you think I look great. Be there for me when people are shouting at me. Do you know what I mean? I'm a strong bitch, I can deal with it. But, we need your support because it affects mental health.
Is that why fruitcake's called fruitcake? Because it evokes the sort of pejorative word fruit meaning gay and fruitcake as sort of jocular or colloquial word for mental illness.
It's a slur from my childhood that I was constantly called as a child. So I, reclaimed it and put it... I was going to call it Nancy Boy, which I have emblazoned on the back of quite a lot of my clothing.
Sounds like a Bowie track.
I know, literally. I just love being...
You've got a touch of the Bowies about you, though.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
that's the best compliment ever.
Thank you.
It's certainly better than you sounding like Piers Morgan.
I'm so sorry. Right, can I just say... Right.
I do try my best.
If we've learned anything from this podcast, it's that there's the one pejorative term you should never use on anyone is you sound a little bit like Piers Morgan.
Correct.
I'm so sorry. I take it back.
Trigger warning. Thank you. Trigger warning. Piers Morgan is being Piers Morgan is being used. Natasha, what would you, to sum up, what would you like us to be more aware of? And what could you give our listeners an action, something we could do? And is there anything of yours you'd like us to look at, any material of yours you'd like us to look at?
Well, language is one of the easiest things to change, even though it takes repetition and sometimes you're going to fuck it up. It's one of the easiest things to change. And it informs not only our kind of social narratives, but also our internal narratives. So it's incredibly important. One thing that I would like people to not say is 1 in 4 people has got mental health. Because firstly, we've all got a brain, which means we've all got mental health. It's an inaccurate statistic that makes it look like it's only relevant to a quarter of the population. And in fact, that's kind of what my book was predicated on. And if you would like to look at my book, it's called A Beginner's Guide to Being Mental, an A to Z from anxiety to zero fucks given.
Yes.
Nice. Can we buy that tonight? Have you brought any along?
I have.
Oh, brilliant. So we can buy it in the foyer?
Yeah.
Will you sign it?
Of course.
Lovely, super. Jamie, what would you like us to be aware of?
Just to be aware of your eyes. Staring hurts. Going back to street harassment, like, staring is really intense because it's, again, you can't go to the police and be like, Judith was staring at me. Because they'd be like, yeah, because you look like you do. And I'm like, okay. And also with children, tell your children to stop staring or educate your children. What I always say to parents, because I've started stopping people and being like, let's break this down. And they're like, oh, it's because you look like you do. And I'm like, use this opportunity to talk to your children. You don't have to go into the, depths of queer history, but just be like, Jamie's doing what Jamie wants to do. Yeah, and just be like, embrace that. Fruitcake was something that I started during university and then prolonged it throughout. So I've just had the first issue and actually won recognition from ASOS as a young emerging communications talent, which thank you so much. Still yet to receive my discount, but I'll let it slide. The first issue has been amazing. Submissions have just opened for the second issues. So if you go to the Fruitcake Magazine Instagram, there's I'm doing the issue on relationships, so relationships with absolutely everything. And I really wanted to make it print because print's dying, and I want to create something that's, memorable and you can flip back to at different points in your life and be like, oh, I need this now. I didn't think I needed this, a couple of years ago, but I need this now.
Corry Shaw, how can we help you?
You can help me by spreading the look up message. It looks like it's actually going to happen in London now. More and more people are saying that they are going to look up. They're going to be aware of people that might need a seat. And it doesn't have to be a disabled person. It might be someone that is very pregnant, very hot. It might be someone that's having a bad day and having a cry and just needs to sit down. Just look up and be aware of who's around you. If you want to do something practical, we do have a petition on change.org. So if you go onto change.org and search look up TFL, you will find the petition. If you could sign that, that's also going to Chris Grayling as well as TFL. Chris Grayling has declined to support the campaign.
What?
Because...
Is Chris Grayling the worst person in the world other than Trump and Mugabe
and Piers,
and Sarah Huckabee and Piers Morgan? He's in a special band.
He is in a really special band. His response was, well, for TFL, you've written to the mayor, so yeah, get on to him. And nationally, I don't run the rail. Literally, he then said it in the news about 2 days later, I don't run the railways. So we can't enforce it.
You can't force it. You can encourage it, and you can have the conversations to get it happening.
But yeah, I got a direct decline from him. So yeah, if you want
I hope both his legs fall off.
Yeah, you should write to him directly and tell him you hope his legs fall off.
Sorry, but such a bad person. He's so fucking privileged. What? He's not going to just be like, yeah, hashtag look up.
Yeah,
sorry, I did one nice thing in my life before I died.
There's no PR. There's no PR downside. It's like, this is a slam dunk for politicians. Help the disabled people. That's a nice thing.
He's too busy stroking his white cat and thinking up evil things that can happen. Catherine Bohart, what would you like to plug? Remembering it's a different show.
Can I second the staring? I'm not saying, like, look away if you see queer people. Don't look at them, children. But I do just want to, like, there's so many... And people are well-intentioned sometimes. Like, people stare because I'm with my girlfriend, but they'll also stare, like, long enough in the hopes that they'll get the chance to do the, we accept you not. And I'm like, babe, that's cool, thanks so much, but I just want to have dinner. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes it'd be nice just to not... So, yeah, there's a fine balance. I'm not saying look
So
away.
there's the Guardian nod, which is, we're very liberal, you know.
Oh, yes.
We're in the bubble.
I've been staring at you all dinner just so I could say, I know a lesbian. Totally fine with it. Cool, but, like, you made starters weird, do you know?
If you could just save your stares for the disabled people that need your seats rather than...
Look up, not at me, yes!
Swap a stare week. I've written a book. It's called The Guilty Feminist, and it's chapters about how we can better include ourselves in the world, how we could take up space, how we can be better activists, the power of yes, the power of no, that kind of thing. So look, some of the stuff that I've said before on the podcast that people have said, could you write that down, please? It's mostly new stuff.
That's just reminded me, as a long-term fan of this podcast, I'm desperate to do my I Am a Feminist But.
Oh, yes.
Can I do it? I'm a Feminist But?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I'm a feminist, but sometimes before I weigh myself, I flop my boob on the kitchen scale and then times the weight by 2 and then take it off my total weight because boobs don't count.
That is a good technique.
Okay.
That is a phenomenal technique. That is a phenomenal technique. Jamie, do you have an I'm a Feminist But?
I do. I'm a feminist, but this week when I was told that I was going to be going to another panel talk with all feminists, my first thought was, who the fuck's going to pay the bill? Are we going to split it? Are we going to be stubborn? Because the head of this group is a man. So I was just like... And I had to also explain to this man that I wasn't a woman, which is great. It's just like, surprise. But yeah.
Corry, do you have an I'm a Feminist But?
I do. Mine's quite a happy one. I'm a feminist, but my ex-husband is walking me down the aisle to give me away to my new husband.
Patriarchy, really? Pass the baton.
I'm a happy possession.
Where is our charity of the week? Yay!
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
My name's Alison Keeley. I am CEO of a charity called Link Able. We provide recreational and social activities for children and adults with learning disabilities. So we do things like we have a nightclub 5 times a year that is for over 18s with learning disability. We get between 200 and 300 people there. The DJs all have learning disability as well. The bar is open. It's a very kind of vibrant evening. Over the summer, we'll be running holiday camps for children with learning disabilities who, if they approached another provider who was more mainstream, probably wouldn't be able to attend. We are based in Woking and we cover Southern Heath, so we're a very small geographical area, but We know we have other charities locally that provide similar services for people in other areas.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Well, if you've come here tonight...
do we help?
If you've... keep the mic for a sec. If you've come here tonight, you've paid for your ticket, there is absolutely no obligation, but if you could put something in one of the collection tins on the way out, it would be much appreciated. If you're listening at home, you do not pay for this podcast, so if you could chip in something online at...
Either Just Giving or Virgin Money Giving, we're on both of those. It's linkable. We're also looking for trustees, so if anybody's in the Woking area and is interested in becoming a trustee of a fantastic charity...
And it's
please,
Link what?
Linkable. So it's
Linkable.
all one word, Linkable.
Linkable, Just Giving, give it home if you can. Thank you so much. You have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Catherine Bohart, and our very special guests, Corry Shaw, Jamie Windust, and Natasha Devon. The recording engineer was Chris Sharp, the music was by Mark Hodge, the producer was Tom Selitsky for The Spontaneity Shop. Thanks to Zoe, Jacob, Sally, and everyone at King's Place, as well as all of you for listening. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com. This is The Guilty Feminist, the podcast in which we explore our noble goals as 21st century... You know what, Tom? I nailed it last time. Use that one. Okay.
Hi, it's Tom.
It's Jess.
And John.
From the Best Pick podcast. We're just dropping in to let you know that we're doing another live recording. On Sunday, the 15th of September at 12 noon, we'll be watching Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca.
Please come along and watch it with us, and we would love to hear your questions and comments afterwards. It won't be just us on the mic, it'll be you too.
And you get to watch the movie with us during the course of the show.
Book your tickets now by going to kingsplace.co.uk.
We'll see you there.
Bye.